Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second UK-Israel FashionTech Meetup. My name is Daphna. I'm from the British Embassy, and we're here for you to facilitate partnerships and collaborations between the UK and the Israeli ecosystems. First of all, I would like to thank our partners from Re.Fresh who have organized this event with us. Viktoria is going to be our moderator tonight, and I'm going to hand over to her soon. And I would also like to thank our wonderful speakers and presenters for joining. And we're very excited to have you all, the audience, also with us today. And before Viktoria is going to introduce you to all our speakers, I would like to introduce you to Mark Power, the Deputy Head of Mission at the British Embassy, and for his opening remarks. Mark.
Thank you, Daphna. Thank you, everyone, and thanks again, as Daphna said, to everyone for joining. I really just wanted to say a couple of things about kind of why this particular theme event is kind of quite exciting for us this year, and one of those is around the sort of impact it can have on climate change. So this is going to be a really, really big focus for the UK as we go into 2021. We're supposed to be hosting COP26 this year, but of course COVID put paid to that. And we are now going to host it in Glasgow in November 2021. So what it does do is give us more opportunity and more time to kind of build up even more kind of campaigns, events, and issues around it. And what you're kind of talking about today is really kind of a key to that, because what in addition to the whole, the Paris type climate accords, in addition to the whole government to government agreements that come from a big diplomatic event like that, we also want to fully engage and fully bring to bear our kind of innovative private sector and non-governmental sectors. And I think that's something that Israel has been extremely good at showing the way in how to do. And I think it's great that we've got some really interesting people to collaborate and learn from today on parts of that. And I think that we're really clear that it's these kinds of collaborations, even if they are small on scale, even if they're bigger, that in all sorts of sectors, and today it'll be the fashion and textile sector, that will lead to more sustainable kind of approaches to living and innovation that will mean that adapting ourselves to the kind of climate realities will be something which people want to do, as well as kind of something that government sort of forces and taxes people into. So that's really something that's going to be a big focus for the UK in the coming year. So with that, I'm delighted to sort of welcome everyone to the second meetup that we've organised, the last one being last month, and bringing together fashion thinkers to do more to in that innovation space. And finally, just a kind of bit of a or two particular kind of advertisements, as it were. The first is just to sort of say the great team that Daphna's representing, but others might be on the line in terms of our prosperity team across the embassy. We have people who work really on the traditional trade and economy side, but also in science, innovation, and in the tech sector. So we've got a really interesting range of experts. And if you don't know them and you have relevance and you kind of are interested in collaborating, please do kind of get in touch with how we can get more collaboration going. And the final point is just to highlight, Daphna, I don't know if people were being sent some details of this. You've asked me to highlight that the embassy is running a tech rocket ship award, which is about kind of choosing some really promising tech businesses and helping them with a trip to the UK. But I don't know if there's detail. You've asked me to promote it. I know what it is, but it is where the details are, and maybe you can say a word about where people can get more information on that. Thank you very much to everyone for joining. Thank you to our speakers, and I hope it's an interesting session.
Thank you, Mark. So just short before I hand over to Viktoria, moderator. So what Mark has mentioned, first of all, I'm gonna talk about it towards the end of the event, and also all of you are going to receive an email after this event where you get the link, which will help you to read a bit more about this award, and obviously where you can also apply. And the deadline is the 15th of November. But now I'm handing over to Viktoria, who is going to start with a wonderful meetup tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daphna. Thank you so much, Mark. I just want to say that this is so not self-understood to be having this kind of partnership with an embassy. Embassies used to be these places that were not approachable, and here we are, we're working together, and we're really here to fulfill a mutual vision. And I really am sure that this is just the beginning, and we have a lot of plans with everyone here. So again, thank you so much. I know that there is also a particular department within the embassy, which is the UK Science and Innovation Network, which is also part of this whole vision. And Daphna, I think I'm right to say that this is a global initiative by the UK government. So I think this is just beautiful how we're really talking, looking into a new world where collaboration between different department, different organization is going to be the solution to all the many problems that the world is facing today. And we're speaking about one of the biggest ones, right, that we are facing, or we are all maybe also have a way to actually influence and change. And it's the fashion industry. But of course, when we're talking about the fashion industry, we also have to think that this is something that has to do with our climate and has something to do with our environment. And of course, what the impact of the changes that the industry is undergoing will have on our lives. So what we're talking about is actually, and what will happen today is that we will have these wonderful speakers that I will introduce in just one moment. And we'll hear the insight, and we'll also see how together we can rethink and design the whole industry and the future. And we will think and hear from them how we can do this based on circular economy, which is really one of the main ideas we're talking about here. Just a few quick house rules before we start. I see that most of you already have their cameras turned off and you're on mute. Having said that, please do use the chat box for questions. This is the way for you to express yourselves, to comment, to participate. And I do promise that we will do our best to try and implement and look at all of them as much as possible when we'll have our Q&A session. But first and foremost, let's talk about the topic of today's meeting. So most of you, of course, will know that the fashion industry that it operates on a very stringent calendar. What it means that for decades, there were the big four area cities that were sort of dictating the trends on anything, and even the destinies and anything that fashion brands and designers had to produce and how they have to behave. The big four are New York, London, Milan, and Paris, with their fashion weeks that used to take twice a year. I don't know if you remember those times, because they have long gone. They're long gone, because right now it seems that there's actually like a seemingly not ending cycle of events and showcases, because there's so many different trade shows and fashion weeks taking place. And what it means that it forces designers to produce and even overproduce in order to keep up with the demands of the industry and the competition. Okay, so this is the situation we're in right now. And like I said, what does it actually mean? Overproduction and overconsumption. It means that they're, of course, causing an enormous amount of waste, and basically globally, worldwide. Textile waste, and by the way, also a lot of other waste too. And even though the sector is becoming more resource efficient, we still see that it mostly operates in a very linear model, which means we make and someone uses it and then it's being disposed. And if we take just the UK as an example, we know that more clothes are bought per person in the UK than in any other country in Europe. And when we translate into numbers, it means that actually UK citizens alone discard around 1 million tons of textiles per year. Okay, so that's, you know, we have to kind of think about this really high amount. It's hard to even to imagine what it means. By the way, for Israel, unfortunately, we do not have exact numbers yet. It's actually something that Refresh is working on creating, but we do know that there is also there's between 300 to 500,000 tons that are also being wasted of textiles every year. So what this means is that it's really high time to accelerate change in the sector. And without further ado, I would like to give over to the speakers that can actually give us some insights about it. Irene Maffini, the Portfolio Director at Sustainable Accelerator, which is, you're a UK venture capitalist and you invest into sustainable startups. I would like to be the first one to address us, especially because with the current situation, it's very important to understand what investors are looking at. We're hearing more and more about impact investing, which from what I understand means that investors don't only just want to invest into something that will produce more and more, but they're actually looking at change. So Irene, please share with us what it actually means. And also if you can even give us some insight about innovation trends and maybe even new materials that are in the industry that could be interesting for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So hi, everyone. I work for a company called Sustainable Accelerator. So we are an early stage VC fund and accelerator based in London, and we invest in early stage companies, usually pre-seed, seed stage. And for us, sustainable fashion is not a theme, but we have been looking at a lot of sustainable fashion innovators within our circular economy theme that we invested in. And just to give you some ideas of the companies that we invested in, the first one is Petit Pli, which is a wearable technology company that makes clothes that grow. The first product is kids wear. So it's a suit that actually can grow 7 sizes, fitting kids from 9 months to 4 years. The suit is made of recycled plastic bottles, and they are like expanding to new products, such as expandable masks, which are pretty handy in this COVID era, as well as going into adults wear next year. And then we've invested in a company called New Wardrobe, which is an app for women to share and swap clothes instead of buy new ones. They are targeting a younger demographic who doesn't really want to buy new clothes nor rent, because they still find rental of clothing quite expensive, and they can have access to a digital revolving wardrobe for only £8 per month. We have been asked to speak about innovation trends that I see emerging from the UK universities and research centers, which is an area I'm really excited about. And within kind of the fashion sector, I think we are really witnessing a perfect storm of emerging innovation that is really not the commercialization stage yet. So it's really interesting times. Consumer shifts towards more sustainability, but also more transparency. And I think the pandemic is just accelerating these trends for innovation. And I think we are just at the beginning of, seeing there's an opportunity to remake the industry and which is really like ripe to be disrupted at the moment. And then I think that, sustainability is here to stay. It's a new phase of sustainability that will focus more on resource efficiency and better materials, more value and no impact. And the key areas that are really needed to enable these are new materials and advanced chemical recycling, as well as natural dyes. And I will discuss some of these innovators that I see in the UK. But first, before I do that, I guess the kind of statistics that really shocked me when I started looking into this sector are the fact that 50% of the fashion environmental footprint really lies at the raw material stage. And that at the moment, we only, two dominating materials, polyester and cotton, represent up to 85% of the global fibers market. And both of these materials are not sustainable and they will need to be replaced. And I don't think we will replace polyester with a new sustainable polyester, but it will be a range of exciting new materials that I think we are seeing now getting outside of or still at like lab stage in universities globally. The UK, I think, is emerging as a success story in sustainable fashion for new materials, and I will discuss some of the companies that are coming out of UK research centers. I will mention a few companies. I will also include after, I will put them in the chat box so you can see them and you can check them out at your own, with your own time. So the first company I'm really excited about is called Spintex. They are an Oxford spin-out making spider silk in a lab. They're using no genetic modification and also environmentally friendly process at ambient temperature. This means that they're actually 1,000 times more energy efficient than synthetic fiber productions, and they use no hazardous chemicals, and the only byproduct of the process is water. Another company that's really interesting coming out from Cambridge, actually University and Research, is High Biotech. They're making collagen-based biomaterial that resembles genuine leather. And this is made from fish waste, because fish is made by collagen and leather is more than 90% collagen. This allows High Biotech to achieve really an authentic look of leather, which is a problem with some of the alternative leathers, that they are too perfect and they don't behave like normal leather. And also this material means that you can reduce water consumption, the carbon footprint, and also really reduce waste, which is generated normally in the leather manufacturing process. Another really cool company coming out of RCA research is Biophilica. They're making leather-like material from green waste that can be home composted and also totally recyclable, so you can achieve full circularity. They are at the moment working to produce the first quantities of the material in a pilot. They will enable to produce the first products to demonstrate the properties of their material. Another interesting company is also Saltico, that is born from Imperial College and RCA research. They are the first company, to my knowledge, that makes fibers and textile completely freshwater free. They grow plants that like salty water, and they process them into final textile across woven, non-woven, and stuffing material, which is actually their first application. And then when it comes to alternative to cottons, a really exciting company coming out from always Imperial and RCA is Hydrocotton. They use a hydroponic technology using 80% less water and no artificial pesticides or fertilizers. They also enable full traceability, so they're quite, which is quite important, also added benefit to their technology. And as I mentioned before, on the top, I think new materials, also natural dyes are very important, because, at the moment we use so many different dyes, they use so many hazardous chemicals, and are really disruptive innovators in the UK is Colorfix. They are the first company using a biological process to really produce, deposit, and fix pigments into textiles. They've been working quite hard to develop their color palette and also their industrial scale demonstration with a few brands globally, and we'll be launching their first products next year. And finally, I guess the really kind of holy grail as well of enabling a full circular system is advanced chemical recycling. And at the moment, we cannot really recycle blended textile. There are a few emerging innovators, and a really exciting one from the UK is Worn Again. They are able to recapture raw materials from non-reusable products. So it can be textiles, it can be PET bottles, it can be packaging, and then they can really turn blended polyester cotton into new yarn that has the equivalent properties of virgin resources, which is amazing. And as I said, I will put these companies on the chat box so you can have a look at them if you're interested. Also, in terms of collaboration opportunities with sustainable ventures, we just launched our 4th fund. We're looking for new companies to invest in starting early next year. And if you are a UK-based company, you focus on circular economy, you are SASES eligible, please get in touch. We also run other business support and technical support programs with the GLA in Imperial College called Better Futures, and also an accelerator with Climate Kick. And if you're a London-based company, again, focus on sustainability, please get in touch after the event. I would be happy to share more about this. Thank you very much, and happy to reply to any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Irene, just a quick reminder to, when you're done, to share the links to many of the exciting companies you have mentioned. Actually, Warren, again, they spoke at our last webinar, so some of us are familiar with them already. Okay, well, the next speaker's workplace doesn't really need an introduction. I think we all know, of course, the global luxury brand Stella McCartney, and we also know that this brand has been long associated with sustainable and ethical fashion. Basically, it's a pioneer. Stella McCartney is a brand which really is a pioneer in promoting sustainable thinking in the UK and way abroad, and beyond, actually all over the world. I think what's most interesting that the brand has collaborated also with so many other brands to continue promoting this new approach of collaboration, of open-mindedness in the fashion industry. Kenneth, Gotlib, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. I will reveal a small secret. You're actually right now based in Israel, even though you're still working with Stella. And I think that if there was an amazing example for collaboration between the two countries, there couldn't be anyone better than you. My question to you, the first important question is for you to tell us, please, what does it actually mean to run and plan in global events? You're the worldwide manager for events at Stella McCartney, and so you're working on the global activities. What does it mean, and how is it possible to plan events in a pandemic-ridden and sustainability-sensitive environment? Please share with us your challenges. We don't
Definitely, hear that. Yes. Thank you, Viktoria. Thank you, Daphna. Thank you, Mark, for having me. It's very exciting to see initiatives like these happening with Israel. So just a few words about me. Like Viktoria said, I've been working at Stella McCartney for 10 years now. I've worked as marketing and PR manager for about 5 to 6 years, and then I moved to the events department, which we opened up together, where I've been for the past 5 years, which has been great. Before I answer Viktoria's questions, I just want to say a few words about Stella McCartney as a company. I would imagine most of you are familiar with the company, but you never know. So Stella McCartney is a luxury brand. She designs women's wear, menswear, activewear, children's wear, fragrance, and lingerie. So she's definitely busy, and swimwear, actually, I forgot. She's definitely a busy woman. Like Viktoria said, Stella has always been sustainable since the beginning. So since 2001, when the brand was established, she was actually ridiculed a lot for strongly believing in sustainability and believing a luxury brand would be able to work as a sustainable brand. However, I think she's proven most of the people wrong, and I think she's succeeded in maintaining a luxury brand while trying to be as sustainable as possible. I just want to give a few examples of things that Stella uses, materials that Stella uses. She doesn't use any leather, fur, feathers, any materials that could be derived from animals or that would have harmed either animals or the environment in any way, shape, or form. However, it doesn't compromise on design. I do want to show one example. For example, this is a little laptop pouch I have here. It looks like leather, but it's not. And it's a great quality, definitely very durable. She also uses raw materials. I know Irene mentioned raw materials are very harmful to the environment. So for Stella, it's also obviously important that behind the scenes, everything is sustainable and not just what people see. All the cashmere used is regenerated. We don't create new cashmere. Everything is upcycled rather than recycled. Only use organic cotton, sustainable viscose. Viscose is actually a very harmful material for the environment because viscose is taken from trees. I didn't know that before. I don't know if you guys know that. It comes from trees and leads to a lot of deforestation, mainly in the rainforest. So all our viscose is sustainably sourced and managed. Just looking at what else. And then something else that Stella has developed in recent years, which started in 2012 in partnership with Caring. So Caring used to be a joint venture with Stella McCartney. She then left the group. She's now flying solo. But she developed the environmental profit and loss, which is basically showing how much we're harming the environment and how much we're helping the environment. And I strongly believe that's something amazing. I don't think people talk enough about this. I think most companies should definitely have something like that to see how harmful they really are for the environment, and what they can do to better their impact on the environment. Just as an example, the cashmere, which only accounts for 0.4% of our collections, was actually around 40% of our most harmful product we use for the environment. So something so small can be very harmful. So it's definitely worth looking into all of these things for every company. And then just a few notes to touch upon Israel. We actually started working a few years ago, I don't remember exactly when, with a local company called Tipa. Tipa means drop in Hebrew. And Tipa is a company that develops compostable plastic. So, well, it's not really plastic, but they changed the molecule form, and all the packaging that they create is fully compostable. So anything that Stella would package and ship to anywhere in the world would be packaged in 100% compostable packaging. Same goes for my events, for example, that I would organize. Any invitation I would send out, if it would be in an envelope, it would come in a Tipa envelope that's fully compostable. That being said, I'll move on to the events, which is what I lead and what I've been doing at Stella McCartney for the past 5 years now. I think there's a lot that goes into planning events, a lot that people maybe don't think about behind the scenes. Plastic is very common. It's used a lot at events, whether it is to protect things being transported, whether it is to serve foods or drinks in straws, any type of plastic. Water bottles are very common at events. So obviously that's something that we need to keep in mind at all times. It's challenging because when working with countries that are a bit less advanced or attached a bit less importance to sustainability, it's very hard to get that message across and for them to understand that we don't want any produce that could be harmful to the environment at any stage within the planning and the actual event. So plastic is a big one. We also try and include and educate our guests when they come to an event about what we do. A little example, we did an event in Milan last year, I believe, where we showed our new collection, which we do twice a year, in addition to our fashion shows, which we do twice a year, where we used all the recycled fabrics all over our event space. So we had a corridor that was decorated with recycled fabrics. We had a tent that was made up of recycled fabrics. We had a podium where we had a singer perform. And then all of that also goes to a school. So everything is then donated to a school to make sure there is some circularity there. And, I'll touch upon the circularity, which Viktoria already mentioned in a bit. Another important part is being vegetarian. We're a fully vegetarian brand. We wouldn't serve any type of meat, fish, or anything like that. So that's also something that's very important, not just at events, but also for Stella personally. And then also something that's very interesting is when you organize an event, a lot of people would travel for the event. And obviously when you travel, you create a carbon footprint, something that is very harmful. A lot of people traveling, for example, for Fashion Week, we have about 900 people attending our fashion show. That's only in front of the cameras. Behind the scenes, you have about 200 additional people working on everything. So what Stella does as a brand as well is offsetting that carbon footprint. There are many ways you can do that. I encourage you to read about it. I think it's an extremely interesting topic. But for any carbon footprint you create, you can offset it by, for example, buying wind power, solar power, hydroelectric power, and biofuels. So if you invest in these, it will offset your carbon footprint. You can go to your local government website and find more information about that. There are some NGOs that specify in that, so they can advise, what is best for you as a brand. And then in this day and age, so events, Corona time, I think it has helped in a way. I think there might be a silver lining to this horrible pandemic, where a lot of brands are going digital, which helps a lot. Obviously, it cuts the travel, it cuts the need to create new material, new seating, new podium, new everything that would need to be there for an event. So maybe, there is a way to take something and to learn something from this pandemic. However, I do believe in having live events. I do believe that events still need to happen. However, there is a way to do it right. We've been trying to do so. I'm not saying we're perfect, far from it, but we're definitely trying. And I encourage everyone to try thinking a bit more about their actions and really thinking about everything that's involved when either planning an event, planning a personal party even, and all of these things, think about what you can do personally to help the environment. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. This is so impressive, really, and hope that this can serve as an inspiration to so many other brands out there and companies. And of course, our last but definitely speaker, she will have a lot to add to the last topic of running international events. Amanda Johnston, you are the curator and the education consultant at the Sustainable Angle. And what's also extremely interesting is that you have created and I guess co-organized, one of the most important worldwide expos and trade shows for sustainable textiles, the Future Fabric Expo. And I would love for you to talk about, we've mentioned circularity so many times and circular economy and this big dream of making the fashion industry completely sustainable, circular, but we have to remember one thing, that as long as there are all these synthetic materials out there, right, and fabrics, we will never be able to make it fully degradable and compostable. So we'll definitely have to look for alternatives. Just to throw in some numbers for everyone, I don't know if you're aware that textiles, and especially the clothes we're wearing, they consist of up to 60% of plastics. Which makes it, of course, extremely problematic in terms of finding sustainable solutions to biodegrade them. So, Amanda, please share with us, especially the most promising trends for circular and innovative textiles, because any great textile, it's not enough for it just to be an interesting idea. It really has to be effective and scalable. And then maybe also you could talk a bit how Israeli entrepreneurs can actually blend in with the many amazing activities that you do, because I'm sure that we have a couple of designers here and maybe students and so on who have interesting ideas. Thank you, Amanda. You have to unmute yourself though, so that we can hear you.
Yes, I will. Okay.
Great.
There we go. Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. This is really an amazing platform and opportunity. You know, we are looking to reach out and work with lots of different organizations. I'll give you a little bit of insight into what we do so far, but yeah, we're super interested in really leveraging the power that we have built up over the past 10 years in really kind of going full throttle to incorporate sustainability into the fashion industry. So what I'm going to do is just give you a bit of a visual insight into what we do. So I'm just going to share screen. It won't be a second. Okay, and here we go. So can everybody see that?
Yeah, I think we're
okay, that's amazing. Okay, so the Sustainable Angle are a not-for-profit organization, and we're dedicated to creating and supporting projects that facilitate sustainable practices right the way throughout the fashion supply chain. And we do this by showcasing low impact materials in all fiber categories sourced from suppliers all around the world. So this gives you some visual insight into our last expo, which took place in January this year. Seems like an awful long time ago now, but it gives you some sense of what we do. This is our materials collection. It numbers around 5,000 materials through all different fiber categories. You can see there on the pillars, those are our key themes that we were communicating to the fashion industry and all manner of visitors. Actually, we would have opportunity for students to visit, opportunity also even for the public to visit as well. We put on 2 days worth of conferences as well with key thought leaders in the fashion industry. So this year it was an absolute buzzing hive of activity. So the key themes you can see there around restoring the damage we've done to the biosphere, regenerating our agricultural systems through more positive choices, and very, very important is to diversify the fiber basket. I love what you were talking about, Irene, about you know, our need really to decouple from fossil fuel-based materials, and also because we have put our eggs into very toxic baskets that Irene mentioned earlier, petrochemical-based synthetics and conventionally farmed cotton. And of course, we're looking forward to the future material landscape through innovations, and we're seeing a plethora of those. And here's our materials innovations hub. And some of those innovations that Irene was talking about, of course, we've featured through this innovations hub, where we draw together as many innovations as we possibly can that point towards a new materials landscape. Now, some of these may be speculative and experimental, but quite a lot of them are poised to become commercially available. I think we've probably all seen in the news media, they've seen a big spotlight shone on mycelium, that's fungi, mushroom, to be a leather replacement. So it's the idea of really biofabricating new materials. And obviously Stella McCartney was one of, well, I think the first designer to do a collaboration with Bolt Threads, you know, alternative leather. Yes, hi. You know, that was beautiful. It was featured actually at the most amazing exhibition in London called Fashioned from Nature. And there is actually a book to that I would recommend. I'll put all of this stuff in the chat as well. Really incredible showcase to really shine a spotlight upon what we've done in sort of pulling resources from nature and not really thinking about their rejuvenation or managing those resources very, very responsibly, and also what the future could be of in materials. So this this collaboration between Bolt Threads and Stella really exemplified what could be the future of more responsibly sourced materials. We also have, you can kind of see in the background there, a whole suite of tools and research information, some of which is available on our website, and I'll put that in the chat as well so that you can understand how we think about materials. And why are materials so important? Well, they really matter. I think this was touched upon earlier as well, that 80% of environmental impacts are determined at the design stage. So this is from research by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And that's hugely significant. That involves the materiality of our products as well. And so we know from our experience that materials are a really incredible way of capturing people's imagination, showing them something they can touch and feel and they can learn about. So this is really critical. When we start to think about materials, we want to think about not just what's the next trend, not just what is a substitution, but do we really understand our materials in a holistic sense? So we do that through thinking about the materials we bring into the collection through systems thinking. And that's the process of understanding how things influence one another. In nature, systems thinking examples include ecosystems in which various elements such as air, water, plants, and animals all interact with each other to survive, flourish, or perish. And it was great to hear Ken as well talk about, you know, a lot of people in the industry not even realizing that viscose, which we all have in our wardrobes, is made from trees and contributing to deforestation. And what was quite interesting, I do remember Stella speaking several years about the fact that she'd been using viscose for 20 years, and it was literally only fairly recently she realized how environmentally devastating it could be because of its reliance upon forests, the forests of the earth we depend upon for generating our oxygen. And so, of course, she became part of the Canopy Planet initiative to protect endangered and ancient forests. So how do we go about doing what we do? We have 4 key criteria, which I'll also make available to you in the chat box so you can read in more detail, which are really concerned with the most pressing issues from an environmental perspective, but also we have stamps recognizing social issues as well, because that's very critical. But I think everybody's very familiar with these 4 key stamps, and so they can understand that when we bring materials into our collection, that what we're talking about. So that's what we do. We interrogate our suppliers and we award stamps for best practice in all of these key areas. Okay, so I'm going to go back to me now. Okay, is that okay? Can everybody see? So I think that what was really interesting about this latest expo that we just held in January was we've been doing what we've been doing for 10 years, and we have been knocking on the door of the fashion industry, desperately trying to engage them with the services that we offer around advisory, consultation and workshops, and of course the Future Fabrics Expo. And it's always been, we've always had, oh yeah, we love what you do. We love the way you put this together. It makes things so easy for us to source. But then there's true full engagement and implementation has been slow to happen. However, in January, we really felt the tipping point had come. The scenes to get into the Future Fabrics Expo, there were queues around the block like people were queuing up for a nightclub to get in. We had over 3,000 visitors. And our seminar series, the queues were half an hour long just to get in to hear these key thought leaders speak about sustainability issues. And then we managed to seat about 400 people for every one of these seminars. So this gives you some indication of, you know, the appetite that had been triggered through all manner of things, actually. I think through, you know, journalists raising these issues around pollution, around plastic waste, etc., and also the ability of social media to leverage change, to draw people together. We saw Greta Thunberg, the Greta effect. All of these things, I think, combined together to get us to a situation where we thought, this is it. We're really now going to create partnerships and really drive what we've been working so hard to impel the fashion industry to do. And then, of course, COVID came. And with that, we've actually been way busier than we've ever been, but obviously trying to deliver information and advice digitally. We are looking forward to planning our 2021 Expo, which should normally take place in January, but we think that's too soon to have an in real life event, because obviously we depend on the fashion industry engaging with our materials in a tactile way. But hopefully we will be holding that with possibly May or June sometime, but we're currently in planning for that. And what we would like to invite people to do, you saw the Innovations Hub that I showed you earlier, is we're very, very keen to showcase all manner of the latest innovations around circular materials. So whether that be through synthetics, we have a partnership with Parley. We're obviously very aware of all the other plastics in, recycling innovations that are going on. However, what we would like to say to that is that this is only an interim. We should not be using any more virgin petrochemical-based materials whatsoever. We just need to clean up the current ones, try to put them into materials that will be around for a lot longer and won't be landfilled. However, the scope of sustainable materials needs to diversify. We need to be looking at innovations in agricultural waste, you know, new innovations in biofabricated materials, some of which Irene touched on there. And I know we'll be discussing more in the Q&A later, but that's certainly the sort of key messages that we're holding. But we'd love to anybody to contact us if they have new material innovations or design innovations. We have a whole showcase within the expo where we showcase what we call our design journeys. And that showcases outcomes, brands who are working in a much more responsible and sustainable way, right from their material sourcing, right the way through to product and how they market it and how they communicate with the consumer as well. So yes, we invite collaborations and information about new material resources that we can showcase through our next expo and other activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. This was so interesting. And I mean, I think we can all just hope that we will be able to get together physically next year.
Yes.
And be able to explore all those amazing innovations that you just mentioned, and probably also many more. Okay, so I can't believe we already heard most of your presentations, but I'm very much looking forward to the Q&A session. So what will happen now, I will give over to my colleague Daphna for one more presentation. And then in the meantime, everyone feel free to start preparing your questions and writing them out. And then hopefully we'll also get to them after a brief Q&A session that we'll do with the speakers. Daphna, please.
So thank you to all our UK speakers. And now I would like to add Danit Peleg, an Israeli 3D printed fashion designer. Danit's collection received global attention in the fashion world and the tech community. Danit is a TED speaker and has been featured in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. She believes that advancement in 3D printing technology could revolutionize fashion design and manufacturing processes. And she was listed in BBC's list of 100 inspiring and influential women. Danit, we're happy to have you here. Please present your innovative approach to sustainable fashion and share your experience in collaboration with the UK.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this lecture. And let me just share my slide. Oops. All right. So today, in the short time that we have together, I would love to show you why I think 3D printed fashion can be part of our future. So my journey with 3D printed fashion started 5 years ago when I was at fashion school. I studied at Shankar. It's a university in Israel, and it's actually number 6 in the world for the fashion department, which is a great honor. So in my thesis project, I decided that instead of sewing my final fashion collection like my friends did, I would use 3D printers. I found a small maker space in Tel Aviv where I spent literally days and nights, and they had different kind of desktop 3D printers, the one you can fit in your house. And that's all I needed to move on with my research. After 9 months of research and development, I end up printed the world's first fashion collection, printed using only desktop printers. I posted a video about it, and the story went completely viral with millions of views and ton of press stories, also coming from the UK recently. My TED Talk in New York was translated to more than 40 languages. That really showed me the curiosity and the lack of knowledge and research that we have in this field. Since then, I learned how deep of a crisis we're in and realized with the whole traditional way of fashion manufacturing, of course. And I realized that if we can take this innovation and make it scale with the right materials, we could reduce our negative impact on the world. So this is a 3D printed dress that I made for the Olympics in Rio. The process of making the dress showed me once again the potential power of using 3D printing. Working on this dress was very challenging because I didn't get a chance to meet the dancer before the rehearsal in Brazil. But thanks to 3D printing and a simple Israeli app, I was able to create and customize the dress so it fit her like a glove without ever meeting her in person. And the whole process created zero waste. So after 7 months of work, the dress was on stage in a beautiful dance with a robot partner. It felt amazing that hundreds of millions of people saw 3D printed dress in action for the first time and actually thought that this is a traditional fabric. So how does 3D printing in fashion work today? It's simple yet powerful technology that is used widely in so many other industries. It works by printing layer after layer, and this allowing us to print any structure we can imagine, including printing shoes and textiles and accessories. With 3D printing, we're able to see the digital simulation of the final product before it even goes to production. This is when we're able to make changes before the physical product is made, saving us so much time and effort and waste. The first garment that I ever printed is this red Liberté jacket that you can see behind me. That took me more than 300 hours to print and assemble. I used small printers, so I had to piece all the garment together from dozens of parts, just like a 3D puzzle. To complete the entire collection, I just brought 6 printers to my home in Tel Aviv, and I literally printed 24/7 for 2 weeks in a row. Well, sounds like a lot, right? But over the past 3 years, that has already evolved. Today, when I print my garments, I use much more sophisticated printers, which allow me to print this jacket that I'm wearing right now in just 4 pieces. And the printing time is 3 times faster. Innovators are coming up with new printers to make this manufacturing process faster. And perhaps maybe the printers will look different than they look today. But indeed, this is still a major challenge we need to overcome. We need to find ways to accelerate printing time to minutes. 3D printing materials are also evolving, and the majority of them are made from recycled plastic. Today, you can already print with wood, with metal, and even with glass. Developing the right materials for 3D printed fashion is the biggest challenge that we face. And one of my projects this year is to solve this challenge. I wish I could tell you about the composition of the material itself, but together with my team at the Moon Creative Lab in Tel Aviv, Palo Alto, and Tokyo, we're aiming to create materials that will have similar properties to fabrics we know today. To have a real sustainable alternative to our current fashion supply chain, it is key that we develop materials that can be printed, can feel good, and can be recycled. If 3D printed fashion become commonplace, the way we consume our fashion will also change quite a bit. Shopping for fashion will be similar to how we shop for music today. We will be able to pick items we like from fashion brands or from our local favorite fashion designer. We will buy a file, customize it, personalize it, like by writing your name in the back, and we will then load the printer with the appropriate fabric filament. So if it's a summer day, you'll print with cotton, and if it's a winter, you'll print with wool, and you will have it ready within minutes in the comfort of your home or in the closest retail store. There are many benefits to 3D printing as it related to our environment, and it can be a real sustainable alternative to the problems we face today in the industry, as well as improve the customer experience and make fashion even more personalized and fun. Today, 15% of the raw textiles material in the world are wasted only on the cutting process. But with 3D printing, very limited waste is produced. So when I print this dress that you see right now, or this jacket, every part has a role and every part is being used. So there is literally no, so it is possible to receive no leftovers at the end, which is not something possible to do with you work with traditional fabrics. Oftentimes, big brands produce way too much styles and designs that are not successful, and they end up as waste under the ground, or worse, being burned. But 3D printed clothes are on demand, so there will be literally no inventory. With digital clothing, we can email address to a friend, and they can print it on the other side of the world. So essentially, there will be no shipping cost. Today, only 1% of our clothes are recycled. But with 3D printing, it may be possible to recycle most of the garments or most of the materials. So if I'm done using this jacket or this jacket, I just blend it, create new filament, and then print a new dress. It is possible to customize every printed piece. So when you print clothes, they fit exactly to your body. And then imagine you as a young fashion designer uploading your design online and immediately having millions of people download and print them, turning them into a viral fashion item. Just like today, a video can go viral on Facebook or YouTube, in the future, a t-shirt or a jacket could become viral too. So these were just a few of the amazing benefits that we will have if 3D printing technology evolves. If it does, the fashion industry will undergo a huge positive revolution. And we're moving at the right direction as awareness is growing, as we all see even today, for more ethical fashion. But to make a real difference, we need to change the process as well. With more research and development into 3D printing, I believe we have a shot at reinventing this industry and rebuild it to be circular and radically cleaner. In a couple of generations, we will be looking very differently at the way we do things today and wonder why we didn't change more quickly. So I really hope for more British researchers, fashion brands, or companies joining in and being inspired and to think big and bring this digital revolution to fashion. Thank you so much. I will be here if you have any questions, and if you have any ideas on how can we collaborate, feel free to contact me. And thank you so much for inviting me here.
Okay, so we unfortunately only have just a few minutes left. So I see that there is some people who are raising their hands. I'm extremely sorry, we will not be able to let you speak this time, but you feel free to use the chat box to write your questions, and then I will collect them and ask, and hopefully we'll have a minute to get to that too. So, but I will ask questions which hopefully also will be interesting for everyone. And so the first question actually goes to Amanda and Kenneth. You already touched upon this, but I do want maybe just a couple of words about how you see the future of fashion events. Kenneth, you said that you believe that there should be still at least partly physical events, but you know, we have so much more in the industry, right? We have the fashion shows, we have trade shows, we have showrooms. And so then there's others who are attempting to do virtual events, right? Can they really replace physical events? And let's not only speak about the time of pandemic, which makes things more obvious, but you know, anyway, how looking into the future, how you think it will look like. So whoever wants to start.
Ladies first.
Amanda. Just, we don't hear you.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, I think that certainly we've been having deep discussions within the Sustainable Angle team about how we go about our next expo. As I mentioned, we're hoping to fix a date for spring. January will be too early. And I think that with what we do, which is absolutely dependent upon creating an event where not only people can touch and feel, but also what's really critical in that space is also the networking and the collaborative opportunities that are seeded there. So it's really, really difficult to replicate that digitally. I mean, I think we've accepted that probably what will happen is that if we have some kind of in real life event, that obviously the numbers will have to be restricted and that we will have to offer in balance, obviously, it to be a hybrid digital and in real life events. So we're just currently talking about how we can deliver digital content that is beyond what everybody is used to right now. Obviously, as I said, we have participated in so many online events that involve, you know, very much the talking head. I mean, there's a lot of interesting content out there, but we really need to showcase the kind of substance of materials. So we need to be looking at very different technology in order to do that. So that's what we're exploring right now. But I would, yes, I'm absolutely all about the importance of a real life event and that human contact and the networking and collaborations that are so critical.
Yeah, for my opinion, I do agree with Amanda and what she has just mentioned. I do believe that physical events are still extremely important. But like I mentioned, what's important is to do them right, and there is a way to do them right. Obviously, we have been doing it, and we are researching. We're always innovating and always finding new ways to make sure we maintain the environment and respect the environment. What I do hope that this pandemic has taught the masses, I would say, is more the wholesale part, the buyers part. Maybe not having the whole world, for example, travel to Paris for Fashion Week. The amount of people traveling for Fashion Week is insane. And there are 4 Fashion Weeks at the moment, official ones in the world. So you do have 3 in Europe. Well, the UK is no longer in Europe. So you have 2 in Europe, 1 in the UK, and 1 in New York that are the official ones. Asia is big now as well and are focusing on their fashion weeks as well. So if all the buyers would go to their local fashion weeks only, and if the wholesalers would divide rather than all go to all fashion weeks, I think that would already tremendously help. And I think that pandemic has changed the mindset a bit, I hope.
Okay, yes, let's stay hopeful. My next question, I guess, is to all the speakers, and maybe Irene, you could elaborate on that first. So Israel is known for its very advanced technology, tech solutions, not necessarily in the fashion industry, but there have been also many solutions that could be applicable. And you mentioned so many companies that are doing truly exciting things, and none of them are from Israel, by the way. Irene, maybe also a question to explain, because you said that many of the companies that can apply, they have to be UK based, so maybe you can elaborate on that too. And then again, the question to everyone: what do you think that Israel can contribute in terms of technologies, and especially the ones that can help install circular practices? Maybe Kenneth, you can say, because you understand the Israeli scene a bit better, and then the rest can also kind of jump in. We really want to understand what is it that we can, as a small country, but yet with really great tech abilities and no fashion market, can contribute that could be really valuable.
There's a lot to contribute, for sure. I mean, it's one of the first things I mentioned to Viktoria when she approached me, was that I'm amazed by the lack of effort there is in Israel, or that I know of at least, to preserve the environment. It's for such an amazing country, and I'm the biggest advocate for Israel, and obviously I love being here. For such an amazing country with so many technological abilities and such an advanced mindset, sustainability is highly lacking in this country. There's still a long way to go. And I was amazed to discover that when I really started living here and being here a bit more than just on holidays. So there's definitely a lot to work. There's great minds here. There's amazing people that are working from here. Like I mentioned, Tipa, Danit, amazing work, honestly. Pretty incredible to see. There are amazing people who are working here who have great ideas. And I definitely believe there's so much we can do to work together. If a company like Tipa can get to a company like Stella McCartney, and then, you know, Stella helped introduce Tipa to the whole Caring group and LVMH group, where she is now a sustainability consultant. There's definitely way and possibility for crossover and for helping each other. I think it's the whole world needs to put their minds together for this. I don't think countries as individuals will achieve a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. Irene, would you like to add your input?
Yeah, I'm not like super familiar with the Israeli ecosystem at the moment, but when I used to work in my previous job at the Carbon Trust, where I focus more on clean tech, I guess key areas, and they work with GE, that's actually set up their GE Ventures in Israel. So I think the key areas of innovation that I've seen emerging from Israel, as you mentioned, new materials, but also water purification technologies, which can also be very important in the fashion sector in terms of wastewater treatment and being able to, treat all of the different hazardous chemicals that come out of that in the current processes. I mean, one area that was also really impressive in general when I met Israeli startups is that you have an amazing funding ecosystem. Actually, better than any other countries I've seen in terms of how it is embedded in your culture to really support entrepreneurs who are starting their journey. And I think there's definitely, a lot of sort of technology transfer that could happen between, I think, the two countries, especially in the context of the textile industry.
Okay, and then just one more sentence about how, what kind of companies can approach your accelerator? What stage?
So as I mentioned before, because we only work with UK-based companies, because our fund is very much like tax-driven in the UK. There are special tax advantages if you invest in UK-based companies, and that's our kind of condition, which means companies have to be based in the UK, and the SES is eligible for us to consider them.
Okay, but I will, can entrepreneurs from other countries approach you, for especially Israel, maybe if they would like to consult? Is this something that could be a possibility, just to understand also more about the brands? Maybe that's something that we can also discuss offline, because a lot of questions,
Yeah, I mean, it's more if anyone in the audience wants to connect to kind of some innovators for different reasons, happy to add that. In terms of the type, all of the work that we do as Sustainable Venture, unfortunately, is focused on UK companies at the moment, but happy to consider, each request and see what I can do.
Amazing, this is very valuable. So I have one more question from us, and then I will take a few more questions. So this is also the last chance for everyone to write up their questions. And this is again a question actually to everyone. So when the news are out there, the UK is heading out from the EU just a few more weeks from at this point. And it's very interesting that this will make the UK actually very similar to Israel, where you will remain an associate member with the EU. And we'll be able to somewhat, of course, continue collaborating, but a bit on a different level. So my question to everyone, especially again, I guess, Amanda and Kenneth, because you work internationally, do you think this will have some kind of will this have an impact on the fashion industry and the collaborations you're doing? And how maybe are you personally or your companies are planning on confronting this and working in that matter? And maybe that's something that either you can learn from us from Israel, or you can tell us about the challenges that we could overcome.
Sorry, Viktoria, I missed the audio went a bit strange. I actually missed the question there.
So just to summarize, I was basically comparing with the fact that with the UK leaving the EU, or basically our gas is just, it's already, it's going to happen practically at this point, and this will make the UK similar to Israel. You will basically become an associate member of the EU and so on. And my question was, given that you're organizing this international events and you have your international work, do you think that it will have an impact on how the UK will collaborate, and also especially in the fashion industry, of course? And what do you think could be mostly interesting in terms of what kind of collaborations, given that the UK will have a different status? Maybe you can speak about the personal experience of the part of how it will impact your companies.
Interesting. No, it really remains to be seen insofar as what we do. I mean, we are UK based, as you know, and our expo takes place in the UK, but we work with global suppliers from all over the world, and Europe as well, but we never have actually shown in Europe. We've never hopped across the pond. In fact, after the success of the expo in January, we were actually planning an expo in New York, and of course COVID stopped that. We were supposed to be participating in another showcase in Paris, which is now obviously completely digital. And I mean, insofar as sort of the ramifications of us operating and doing what we do, I just think that we will focus on communicating with as many people and influencing as many people within the industry as possible, and try to not dwell on the barriers to that in any way, because we're not trading as such. Do you see what I mean? We're a materials showcase. We're not so the kind of the trade barriers and things like that are not affecting us, and it's certainly not going to prevent us from reaching out to organizations and collaborating with them in Europe. We will just we will press for that, for sure.
Okay.
For Stella, I think it will remain the same. We're lucky enough, like you said, to be working internationally, and I think we will still continue to find resources, like Amanda mentioned, Bold Threads, who we're working with, TIPA in Israel, and more companies globally. Also for the UK as a country, they still remain signatory of the Kyoto Protocol and the EU trading scheme, which sets standards for sustainability compliance within Europe. So I don't think that as a country, they will be impacted on the sustainability front.
Okay, well, so this is actually very great to hear. And like I mentioned before, maybe the special, the different status that the UK will be in, which is now will become very similar to the Israeli status, will maybe also help create some other collaborations or some kind of other interesting programs. We're unfortunately very much running out of time, so I will only take one question from the audience, which I thought was very interesting, is the question about the pricing and the how sustainable items are not approachable, right? Which is, of course, something that I guess all of us know in the industry, that if you want to live sustainably and if you want to remain fashionable, it's very hard to combine both. It feels like this is a topic for another event altogether, but maybe all the three of you, maybe you can just say one word about, what you think could bring up on change and make it more affordable to everyone.
Sorry, I'm just going to skip in here because I do feel very strongly about this. The fashion industry is predicated upon on a broken economic system that's been put in place since the Industrial Revolution, which is about just driving, consumption to a high degree to meet this ability to mass manufacture and just keep spewing out product. And then, of course, we get the waste that was mentioned earlier off the back of that. But of course, it's when you say something's not affordable, it depends what your perception of value is. And unfortunately, what's happened with that mass manufacture model and globalization is that we've all been trained to think that things should be as cheap as they are. And it doesn't make any sense when you look at what the people at the back end of the supply chain are actually making, and where we're driving all the margins into the ground for the poor people who are manufacturing this in the developing world, you know, all of our fashion products. We've been trained to believe that these pieces that we want to buy in multiples should be this cheap, and it's just literally, we have to reframe completely how we cost things and how the consumer perceives value. And then you will get through to something that is, you know, is really much more sensible, and therefore that everybody can earn a true living wage right the way throughout the supply chain, and not be at the mercy of big brands who just say, unless you deliver it to me at this price, I'm not buying it. You know, we've heard about these practices all the time. And in fact, we were consulting for somebody who was retailing garments in the hundreds of pounds, but wouldn't look at any fabrics that cost more than £4. Now, you know, do the maths. It doesn't make sense. So that's my little rant.
Yeah.
I just want to add one line. Sorry, I know we're running out of time.
No, go for it, please.
Stella is obviously a luxury brand. I'm not going to claim it is a cheap brand. However, I very much agree with Amanda. When you buy fast fashion, it is something that you have to constantly renew. You have to buy a lot of something because it will get damaged very quickly. Whereas sustainable fashion that is a bit more expensive, like Stella McCartney, for example, remains and it stays for years. It's qualitative. So yes, maybe in the short run, you will spend more, but in the long run, you'll definitely spend less, and it's an investment. So you need to shop smartly, I think, rather than shop quickly.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this was very interesting. Like I said, maybe we'll be able to pick up this topic and continue talking about it. And I think personally that also technology might have actually an influence on making processes more affordable without compromising human rights and everything that was mentioned before. And of course, it will need a much more global look at how to make the change. And actually, Daphna, who I will be giving over to now, will talk about what can be done to create the change and how the UK Embassy can help actually promote and award the ones that are coming up with ideas. So Daphna, please.
So thank you, first of all, to all our speakers, to Irene, Kenneth, Amanda, and Danit. It was great hearing you, and I have the feeling that we could all go on and on. There's many more questions, there's many more things to discuss, but we also need to finish by some point. So any questions that was still not answered, we'll be happy to follow up and get back to you, to the audience. Thank you also to Re.Fresh for organizing this with us together. As I mentioned before, there will be a follow-up email to all the attendees where we will add all the links that were listed here, all the names that were mentioned today. And this will also be your opportunity to just write back to us in case there are any questions that you want us to get back to you. In addition, there will be a very short survey, which we would like you to hear back from you, because these meetups are created for you, the audience. So if there's anything, you know, you want us to cover, so please just get back to us. And now, as Viktoria has said, we, the British Embassy, we're here for you. So we're here for you to facilitate partnerships and collaborations between both ecosystems. So feel free to reach out. And one of the things that is out now at the moment is the Tech Rocket Ship Awards, which was mentioned before by our Deputy Ambassador. And it was also shared in the chat box, and you will receive more information and the links in the follow-up email. So it's basically a great opportunity to win an exclusive business development trip to the UK. As I've said, the link is here in the chat box. You will receive it in the email, and the application deadline is 15th of November. Again, if you'd like to reach out and have more questions regarding this award, also, please reach out to us. And now I'm handing back to Viktoria.
Yes, I mean, the only, I guess, word that's left to say is is to thank you everyone too, and on our behalf, and to say that what we are mostly excited about as organizers is that this is really not just about the events, but just kind of a meeting point for everyone, because that's what we have right now. But the larger vision is to create this community of entrepreneurs on both sides. And by the way, also people, we know that we have had people who signed up from many other countries, from the US, from the Netherlands, from India, and so on. And of course, we welcome everybody who wants to be a part of this to join. We believe that this is very much part of the new world where people collaborate, and we all have one goal in common, which is to promote sustainability. So feel free to mention whatever ideas you have, whatever comes up, whatever consultation we might help you with, because we want to make this also practical. We really want to see outcomes from it, and you will soon hear more about the opportunities that we will create. But of course, again, thank you so much also the UK Embassy for believing in all of this and helping promote this together. Thanks, everyone.